Important conversations happening across the WNBA, including remarks made earlier this week by Napheesa Collier. As you saw it in my statement, but I have the utmost respect for Napheesa and for every single player in our league. They are at the center of everything we do. I was disheartened to hear that some players feel the league and me personally do not care about them or listen to them. And if the players in the W don't feel appreciated and valued by the league, then we have to do better and I have to do better.
NBA world just got hit with a plot twist nobody saw coming. Under the bright lights of Las Vegas, right before Game 1 of the Finals, Commissioner Cathy Engelbert took the stage to face the controversy that's been haunting the league for weeks. Her message? I did not make those comments. She was referring, of course, to Napheesa Collier's claim that Engelbert said Caitlin Clark and other stars should be on their knees in gratitude for the platform the WNBA has given them. It was supposed to be a denial that calmed the fire, but instead, it did the exact opposite. Because when a story this explosive hits the internet, it's no longer about one conversation. It becomes about trust, respect, and who the fans believe. Engelbert spoke carefully, choosing every word like she was defusing a bomb. She said there were a lot of inaccuracies floating around, that she had deep respect for the players, and that social media had twisted things beyond recognition. But the truth is, people weren't listening for spin. They were listening for honesty. And when she denied it that flatly, the reaction split the WNBA right down the middle. Some wanted to move on. Others felt their blood boiling, wondering if this was another example of leadership dodging accountability. The commissioner's words didn't silence the noise. They amplified it.
Her response was, Caitlin should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court, because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything.
You could feel the tension in the air. Engelbert tried to present herself as steady, the adult in the room, but fans and players weren't buying it. This wasn't just about one sentence, it was about a pattern. For months, players have been whispering that league leadership feels distant, polished on camera, but disconnected from reality. And now here was their leader saying she's disheartened, claiming a lot of emotion and passion is clouding the truth. But to the players, that emotion is the truth. That passion is the proof. And it was Napheesa Collier lighting the fire this time. Just days earlier, she'd called the WNBA's leadership the worst in the world. Think about that. Not struggling, not in need of improvement, the worst in the world. A message that echoed across every locker room and headline in the league. So when Engelbert denied her words, it wasn't just a defense, it was a showdown. The commissioner versus the players she's supposed to protect. And when fans looked at the scoreboard, it was clear. The league's credibility was losing fast.
We know how great these players are on and off the court, how much they mean to our league, our fans, and our communities. If they don't feel that, I will do everything I can to change that.
This whole mess started with a single claim that Cathy Engelbert told Collier Caitlin Clark should be grateful for her off-court success, that without the WNBA, Clark wouldn't have her $16 million endorsements. And that's where everything changed. Because when you talk about Caitlin Clark, you're not just talking about another athlete. You're talking about the player who shattered attendance records, spiked TV ratings, and literally made history the moment she touched a professional court. She didn't ride the league's success, the league rode hers. So when fans heard the idea that Clark owed her fame to the league instead of the other way around, it hit like an insult. You could scroll anywhere online, fans, analysts, even former players, all saying the same thing. Caitlin Clark built the modern WNBA. She turned casual viewers into believers. She sold out arenas from coast to coast. And she did it with grace, not ego. That's why Collier's accusation exploded like wildfire. Because this wasn't just a gossip headline anymore. It was a mirror held up to the league, forcing everyone to ask, who's really carrying who? And in that reflection, fans saw what they already knew. The WNBA didn't make Caitlin Clark famous. Caitlin Clark made the WNBA relevant again.
I have great respect for Fee, and I think she made a lot of very valid points. And I think what people need to understand, we need great leadership in this time across all levels.
Then came the calm and the chaos. Caitlin Clark herself. She didn't yell. She didn't throw shade. She didn't even sound angry. Instead, she said something that hit harder than any speech could. Fee made a lot of very valid points. 7 simple words that sent a message loud enough to shake the commissioner's office. Clark didn't have to choose sides. She didn't have to throw punches. All she had to do was validate Collier. And that validation changed everything. Because when the most respected rookie in the league quietly agrees that something's wrong, the silence from leadership becomes deafening. Then she added something that made even her critics pause. This is the most important moment in this league's history, not in her career, in the league's. The kind of line that turns an athlete into a leader. That's why fans love her. Not because she's perfect, but because she's fearless without being loud. She doesn't throw fire, she stands in it. And in that moment, it became clear. Clark isn't just playing in the WNBA, she's redefining it. Her calm was power, her grace was rebellion, and the storm around her? Just proof that she's already bigger than the noise. When Caitlin Clark was asked what great leadership really means, her answer stopped everyone in their tracks. It's all about relationships, she said. Not money, not power, not titles. Relationships. She talked about something most executives forget: human connection. Why would my teammates want to listen to me if I didn't have a relationship with them? She added, smiling softly. You have to be intentional about caring for the people around you. That wasn't just a player giving a cliche quote. That was a 22-year-old rookie explaining in real time what the league's top executives still haven't figured out. Because that's the heart of this whole mess. Disconnect. The people running the WNBA talk about numbers, revenue, sponsorships, and negotiations. But Clark talks about empathy. She's the kind of leader who knows chemistry can't be bought, respect can't be demanded, and loyalty can't be signed into a contract. It has to be earned, one relationship at a time. And that's why fans keep gravitating to her. In a league drowning in tension, Clark speaks like someone trying to heal it. She doesn't just score points, she restores faith. And deep down, everyone watching can feel it. That's what real leadership sounds like.
No one should ever doubt how deeply I care about this league, this game, and every single player who makes the WNBA what it is. So we value feedback, we listen to criticism, we remain committed to engaging in the difficult but necessary conversations that ultimately make us all stronger and better.
But while Clark was offering wisdom, Cathy Engelbert was trying to play defense. Not on the court, but in the headlines. At her finals press conference, she looked right into the cameras and promised to repair any loss of trust. She said she was disheartened to hear that some players felt unheard, and that she would do everything possible to change that. The words sounded polished, almost too polished. Fans could sense it. This was PR mode, not progress. Because when players like Collier and Cunningham are saying, "We don't feel valued," the last thing they want is another round of corporate empathy. They want action. Social media lit up within minutes of her speech. One fan wrote, "You can't rebuild trust by denying what we all saw happen." Another said, "It's easy to promise change when you've already lost the locker room." Engelbert's tone wasn't angry. It wasn't defensive. It was managerial. And that was the problem. The players weren't asking for managers. They were asking for leaders. The kind who stand with them in the fire instead of explaining it from a distance. Engelbert said she'd meet with Collier to talk. Fans said, "Good luck," because the conversation already started without you.
As it relates to officiating and gameplay on the court, we hear the concerns, we take them seriously. Our game is faster, featuring more talent, and the game is more competitive than ever before. And with that evolution, game rules, interpretation, and officiating has to keep pace.
And speaking of conversations, nobody delivered one louder than Sophie Cunningham. The Fever Guard didn't tiptoe around her thoughts. She bulldozed right through them. "They're failing us as players," she said flatly. "I'm just tired of our league." It wasn't bitterness. It was heartbreak. Cunningham said what everyone else was too scared to say. That leadership was making the league about themselves instead of the athletes. She accused the top of being disconnected, self-centered, and stubborn. "It's shameful," she said. "She always makes it about her when it should have nothing to do with her." And the moment she said that, fans erupted online. You could feel it. The collective sigh of relief that someone finally said it out loud. Even NBA players, Cunningham revealed, had reached out in awe of how poorly WNBA players were being treated. They saw what was happening and couldn't believe it. "They actually feel bad for us," she said. That line hit differently, because it wasn't coming from hate, it came from hurt. A generation of players who love this league but are tired of being ignored by the very people who claim to lead it. And in that raw frustration, Cunningham's voice didn't just represent Indiana. It represented an entire sisterhood demanding to be heard.
We know that the league came back and really gave us nothing. And so, there's a potential lockout, because I promise you that we are not going to play until they give us what we deserve. And that's kind of where it's headed, which would be the dumbest basketball decision business-wise ever, considering the momentum the W has right now.
But Sophie wasn't only talking about leadership. She was talking about survival, literally. The physical toll of this season wasn't just brutal, it was historic. The Fever alone lost 5 players to season-ending injuries, including Caitlin Clark herself, a torn groin, a shredded ankle, the kind of pain that could break most people's spirit, but not Clark. She described it as probably one of the worst sprains I've ever had, and still smiled through it. Sophie called it what it really was, a battlefield. "It's become like war out there," she said. "Everyone's just trying to kill each other because that's how you survive." Think about that. The league that's supposed to celebrate athletic excellence had turned into a war zone where stars go down one after another, and leadership just shrugs. Cunningham said the players had begged for officiating reform, for better safety, for clearer foul standards, and yet nothing changed. They were told to tough it out. But tough doesn't mean reckless. The players aren't asking for pity. They're asking for protection, because when every game feels like a collision course, you're not just risking injuries, you're risking futures. And that's what breaks Sophie's heart, that the league keeps celebrating momentum while ignoring the pain behind it. When Engelbert tried to address that pain, it came across like another press release. She announced the creation of a new, multi-stakeholder task force to review officiating. A fancy title for what players have been begging for all season: accountability. She admitted something that most executives never do. We are misaligned with what our stakeholders want. Translation: the league and its players aren't even on the same page about how the game should be called. That's not a disagreement, that's a fracture. On paper, the task force sounds promising, but players have heard that song before. Committees, meetings, reports, more talk. What they want is change they can feel on the court, better referees, consistent calls, protection from reckless play. Engelbert said she wants officials to serve the game, to perform at the highest level. But words don't erase bruises. Until players see those changes actually happen, the task force is just a headline, not hope. And for Fever fans who watched Boston foul out, Mitchell collapse, and Clark limp off the court, that distinction matters. Because talk doesn't stop pain, action does. As if the pressure wasn't already boiling, reporters hit Engelbert with the toughest question of all. Would she still be commissioner after this storm? Calls for her resignation were starting to circulate, whispers growing louder by the day. Her answer? "I've never been a quitter." It sounded confident, maybe too confident. Because that line wasn't just about her resolve, it was a declaration of war, a sign that she wasn't backing down, no matter how loud the players got. But that's where the tension reached its breaking point, because while Engelbert was vowing to stay, players were threatening to walk. The WNBPA had already opted out of the current CBA, and negotiations were stalled in no man's land. The Players Association even told athletes there'd been no progress in recent talks with Engelbert and the league's legal team. It's the kind of silence that says everything. Behind the curtain, the union was bracing for the worst, and fans could feel it. A lockout wasn't some faraway threat anymore. It was a shadow creeping closer by the day, and the league that had just started to shine was suddenly standing on a cliff's edge, staring down the possibility of total shutdown.
I did want to follow up, though, and ask, I think that the growing sentiment around the league, right, is that players, they feel that the right leadership isn't in place right now in the league office. So do you feel that you're still the right voice and expect to continue to be commissioner beyond this CBA? Thank you.
I certainly, that's another inaccurate statement out there that everybody reads and takes clickbait on. Obviously, I've never been a quitter. I'm entering my 40th year, actually, this month in business. Never been a quitter, never shied away from tough situations. I think leadership, the cream always rises to the top, and I've always been someone who believes in the fact that if there's things we need to fix, we're going to fix them. If there are things the players have a perspective on that they don't like that we're doing or I'm doing, we'll fix them.
At the heart of this fight, like always, is money. Players want what they've earned. fair pay, health protection, and a share of the revenue they generate. Engelbert said she shares those goals, promising significant increases in salaries and benefits. She even talked about revenue share components, framing it as a partnership. But the phrase that stuck out was balance. Because in business, balance usually means compromise. And compromise often means the players lose. She said owners still need to be incentivized to invest. A reminder that in her eyes, the league is still a business first, a community second. To the athletes putting their bodies on the line, that mindset feels like deja vu. Every year, promises of progress. Every season, the same excuses. They hear words like sustainability and financial stability thrown around, but stability doesn't heal sprained ankles or replace missed paychecks. What the players want is simple: respect in dollars, not dialogue. And the fans, they're ready to stand with them. Because everyone watching knows one thing: without the stars, there is no show. And without Caitlin Clark and her generation of talent, the WNBA wouldn't even be in this conversation.
Memories this team will cherish forever. The coaches talk about it, the vets that are on the team talk about it, that you don't get this bond, this tightness, these friendships on every team in pro sports. That's not normal. And for us to be able to build that this season is something that's very special.
While executives talk about numbers, Caitlin Clark is talking about something much bigger. She sees the entire picture: the opportunity, the danger, the crossroads. "We need great leadership at this time across all levels," she said, her tone calm but deliberate. "This is the most important moment in this league's history." It wasn't a complaint, it was a warning. Clark understands that what's happening right now isn't just a crisis, it's a test. A moment that could either transform the WNBA or expose its cracks forever. She reminded everyone how players like her grew their brands through NIL and social media long before they ever stepped into the league. She's living proof that power doesn't just flow top-down anymore. It can start with one athlete, one voice, one story. "It's about relationships," she said again. "Whether that's with your teammates, your front office, or the league. That's leadership by example, the kind that doesn't need to yell to be heard." And in those moments, you could see why she's become more than a star. She's become the conscience of the league, the calm center in a storm that won't stop spinning.
Every major sport goes through this. Rules evolve, officiating adapts, standards shift. Alongside the growth of the game, the WNBA is no different. At the conclusion of the season, as we do every year, the league's competition committee will meet to evaluate the state of the game, which includes game rules, officiating, and player safety on the court. The Players Association and players, as always, are invited to engage.
And so the question remains, can the WNBA handle the very revolution it helped spark? Cathy Engelbert says she cares deeply about the league, that she'll never quit. But the truth is, quitting isn't the problem. Listening is. And every time the league dismisses its players' voices, it gets closer to losing the fans who made it matter. Because this new generation, led by Caitlin Clark, isn't built to bow down. It's built to build up, to challenge, to evolve. Caitlin doesn't want to tear the WNBA apart. She wants to rebuild it stronger, with leadership that actually listens and systems that actually protect. She's fighting for something bigger than herself. A future where women's basketball isn't surviving on controversy, but thriving on respect. So let Engelbert call this a misunderstanding. Let her say she'll fix it. But one thing's already clear. The power has shifted. The players have found their voice. And the next time they step on the court, it won't just be for a season. It'll be for a statement. The era of silence is over. The era of accountability has begun.